The rain came down hard the night Davis Allen's life ended and began again. The twisted wreck of his car still lay on the highway by the time they pulled his broken body from the steel. The newspapers called it a tragedy, heir to the Allen fortune, reduced to a cripple before his 29th birthday. The whispers, sharper than knives, told a different story: a man unfit to inherit, a useless son, a shame to the family name. In the months that followed, Davis sat in his wheelchair like a king stripped of his throne. His legs were gone, his muscles wasted, his pride bleeding out of him every day he woke and remembered he could no longer stand. He had ruled the Allen family boardroom once, now the boardroom belonged to cousins, uncles, scavengers picking over the scraps of his fall. And his fiancée, the perfect society doll his family had chosen for him, had vanished the moment the doctor uttered the word paraplegic. She hadn't even looked back when she left his hospital room. Davis had laughed at that. A hard, bitter laugh that tasted of ash. It was in this wreckage of a man's life that Jessica Brown's name surfaced. Jessica had grown up knowing she was unwanted. The daughter of her father's second marriage, she had been a shadow in her own home, useful only when compared to her radiant half-sister, Lillian. Lillian had beauty, charm, and the attention of their father. Jessica had silence, books, and a talent for hiding bruises no one cared to see. So when Brown Corporation faced ruin and the Allen family demanded a bride in exchange for salvation, it wasn't Lillian's name they offered. It was Jessica's. "You'll marry Davis Allen," her father had told her, his voice brisk, like signing a contract. "Do your duty for the family." "And Lillian?" Jessica's voice had been quiet, steady. "Lillian will take her rightful place." His eyes had lingered on her as though she were a tool left too long unused. "You'll serve as the sacrifice." Jessica had smiled then, the kind of smile that cut sharper than tears. "Of course. It's always me." But what they didn't know, what no one in that house of gilded lies knew, was that Jessica Brown was not only the discarded daughter. She was Dr. Sika, the elusive surgeon whispered about in elite medical circles. She was Lady Bright, the anonymous stock god who moved markets with a single decision. She was a woman who had built empires in the shadows while her family ignored her existence. And now they were throwing her into a marriage with a broken heir they considered useless. Jessica wanted to laugh at the irony. The day of their meeting, the Allen estate was draped in cold elegance. Davis waited in the study, a glass of whiskey in his hand though he hadn't touched it. He had no intention of greeting this sacrificial bride with warmth. Let them send him a pawn, he would treat her as such. When the door opened, he expected meekness. Perhaps a girl with downcast eyes, eager to please in exchange for security. What he saw instead was a woman standing tall in a plain dress, her gaze level, her expression unreadable. "You're Jessica Brown." His voice was gravel, low and edged. "I am." Her tone held no tremor. He let his eyes drag over her, not out of desire but judgment. "They send me scraps now. Your sister was supposed to be my fiancée. Instead they trade me the leftover daughter." For the briefest moment, her lips curved in something dangerously close to amusement. "You're not the only one who got the short end of the bargain, Mr. Allen." The words hit him like a slap. No pity. No false sweetness. Just a clean, cutting truth. Davis's jaw tightened. "Do you even understand what you've walked into?" His hand curled around the armrest of his chair. "You're tying yourself to a man who can't walk, can't stand, can't give you the life you imagine. This," he gestured to the chair, "his useless body, is all you'll ever get." Jessica's gaze didn't flinch. "Good. Then we're even. Because this," she spread her hands, slim fingers bare of jewelry, "is all they think I'm worth. An unwanted daughter. A substitute. We're both broken goods, Mr. Allen. Isn't it convenient?" For a long moment, silence filled the room, thick as smoke. Davis had expected tears, pleading, or at least some display of fear. What he got instead was a woman who looked him straight in the eye, daring him to blink first. Something in his chest tightened. He shoved it down. "You'll regret this," he muttered. "Maybe. She walked past him, calm as if she owned the place, and poured herself a glass of water from the crystal pitcher on the table. But regret and I are old friends. That night, Davis lay awake in the mansion that now felt even colder. He told himself he hated her already, the way she spoke without hesitation, the way she refused to look at him with pity. He needed pity. It was the only currency left to him, and she had denied it with a smirk. Jessica, in her assigned room, traced the patterns on the ceiling with her eyes. She told herself this was just another cage, another mask to wear until the time was right. She wouldn't reveal who she really was, not to her family, not to this man who looked at her like a mirror of his own disgrace. But somewhere in the silence of the night, she wondered if perhaps, just perhaps, two broken pieces could make something whole. The thought was foolish. She pushed it away. For now, there was only survival. And the storm that brewed between Jessica Brown and Davis Allen had only just begun. The marriage was sealed with signatures and silence. No vows exchanged, no tender glances, just a contract between two unwilling parties. The Allen estate swallowed Jessica whole the day she moved in, its marble halls echoing with wealth but devoid of warmth. From the beginning, Davis made sure she understood the rules. "You'll have your own room," he said flatly on their first night. He sat in his wheelchair like a general issuing commands, whiskey glass untouched on the desk beside him. "We'll maintain appearances in public, but don't expect more. This isn't a marriage, it's a transaction." Jessica had folded her hands in her lap and studied him with unnerving calm. "Good. Then we won't waste each other's time pretending otherwise." The sharpness of her reply made his throat tighten, but he hid it with a derisive laugh. "Cold already, Mrs. Allen? Shouldn't you be grateful? I could have refused you. I could have sent you back to that family of yours with nothing." Her eyes flicked toward him, clear and unflinching. "And yet here I am. I suppose we're both desperate enough to settle." Davis's jaw worked, muscles ticking as though he were chewing on his own rage. No woman had ever spoken to him this way, not before the accident, and certainly not after. They either simpered or fled. Jessica did neither. That was the beginning of their war. At breakfast the next morning, Davis found her seated at the head of the long dining table. His head. His chair. He wheeled himself forward, expression like a storm. "You're in the wrong seat." Jessica set her teacup down with deliberate grace. "It was empty." "It's mine." His voice cut sharp, colder than the silverware between them. She arched a brow, her lips tilting with infuriating calm. "And now it isn't. Unless you'd like to fight me for it?" For one mad second, Davis wanted to drag her out of the chair with his own hands, to prove he still had power left. But the cruel reality of his legs shackled him in place. The fury in his chest curdled, burning hot enough to choke. Instead, he wheeled himself to the opposite end and stabbed his fork into the eggs as though they were his enemy. Jessica didn't so much as flinch. Their days settled into a pattern of sharp collisions. Davis barked orders at the servants louder than necessary, testing whether she would shrink back like the rest of them. Jessica only watched, her expression unreadable, and sometimes, God help him, she looked amused. When he snapped at her for leaving books scattered in the library, she replied, "I didn't realize the mansion came with rules about reading. Shall I ask permission before breathing as well?" When he threw her a sneer about her plain dresses, she murmured, "I suppose you'd prefer I wear high heels and stumble dramatically so you could feel less alone?" Each time, Davis felt his blood boil, his pride clawing at the remnants of the man he used to be. And yet, beneath the fury, there was a strange pull, a twisted fascination. She didn't pity him. She didn't coddle. She didn't pretend. She met his venom with steel. It was infuriating. It was intoxicating. One evening, he cornered her in the library. Jessica had been curled on the sofa, a book balanced on her knees, when his wheelchair rolled in. He stopped just short of her, eyes gleaming like dark fire. "Do you enjoy provoking me?" His tone was low, dangerous. Jessica closed her book calmly and set it aside. "Do you enjoy being provoked?" Something inside him snapped. He leaned closer, his face mere inches from hers, his voice rough with bitterness. Don't mistake my tolerance for weakness. I could make your life hell if I chose to. Every door in this house answers to me. Every servant, every account, every. Except your legs. The words sliced through the air like a blade. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, heavy enough to crush. Jessica's eyes softened, not with pity, but with something steadier, something that saw too much. I don't say that to wound you, Mr. Allen. I say it because you wield your pain like a weapon, but it's cutting you deeper than it ever will me. Davis's breath stuttered, his pride a raw, open wound. Rage surged, tangled with something he couldn't name, something that clawed at his chest and left him trembling. He shoved his wheelchair back, retreating into the shadows of the room. His voice, when it came, was a growl. Stay out of my sight tonight. Jessica didn't answer. She simply picked up her book again, as though his storm was nothing more than a passing rain. The mansion grew colder in the weeks that followed. They passed each other in corridors like enemies in a ceasefire, each refusing to yield. But the tension never eased, it thickened, crackling in the air like a storm waiting to break. At night, Davis dreamed of her voice, sharp, unyielding, cutting through his bitterness. He woke drenched in sweat, fury and hunger coiling together until he could hardly breathe. Jessica, for her part, found herself listening for the sound of his wheelchair in the halls, her body taut whenever he entered a room. She told herself it was caution, survival. But in the quiet hours, with the mansion silent around her, she remembered the look in his eyes, anger, yes, but alive. And she wondered, against her will, what it would take to turn that fire into something else. Something dangerous. Something she might not be able to resist. The storm between them refused to fade, it only grew louder, sharper, hotter. But beneath the clash of words and wills, something new began to stir. Something neither of them wanted to name. It started one evening when Jessica nearly tripped on the marble stairs. She had been carrying a stack of old books from the library, her arms full, when her foot caught the edge of the step. The world tilted. A hand shot out, strong fingers gripping her arm with surprising force. Davis. He'd wheeled up silently, and now he steadied her with the reflex of a man who had once been whole. His hand lingered, warm against her skin, before he seemed to realize what he was doing. His expression snapped back to cold disdain. You should watch your step, he muttered, releasing her too quickly. Jessica straightened, brushing her hair back with an air of composure she didn't entirely feel. What, afraid your wife will crack her head open before you've had the chance to properly hate her? To her surprise, the corner of his mouth twitched, as if a laugh threatened to escape. But it died quickly. He turned his chair and rolled away, leaving her standing there with her pulse hammering far louder than it should. Another evening, the tension broke differently. Jessica had taken to sitting in the garden at night, the cool air soothing her nerves after another day of walking on glass inside the mansion. She didn't hear him approach until the wheels of his chair crunched softly on the gravel. You haunt this place like a ghost, Davis said. His voice was rough, but quieter than usual, as if he feared disturbing the night. And you stalk like one, she shot back, not looking at him. Do you always sneak up on people? He snorted, the sound dry. Hard to sneak in this thing. He tapped the wheel lightly. You just don't pay attention. Jessica turned her head at that, finally meeting his gaze. Moonlight cut across his face, shadowing the hard planes and the bitterness carved there. For the first time, she noticed how sharp his eyes were, how alive, even when clouded with fury. Maybe I don't want to pay attention to you, she said softly. The words should have been cruel. But something in her tone made them softer, heavier, charged. His breath caught, almost imperceptible, before he scoffed and looked away. Good. Then we agree on something. But the air between them lingered thick with something else entirely. The breaking point came days later. Jessica had been in the study, sifting through financial reports her father's company had dropped at her doorstep like trash. The numbers bled failure across the page, and though she told herself she didn't care, anger coiled tight in her chest. Davis rolled in unannounced. He stopped at the desk, his eyes flicking to the papers. Brown Corporation's dirty laundry? Her shoulders stiffened. It's none of your concern. Oh, but it is. His tone was sharp, almost mocking. Your family handed you off like spare change to save their empire. If they're sinking, you should be on your knees praying I don't let them drown. Jessica shot to her feet, her palms flat on the desk. Do you think I care if they drown? Do you think I lose sleep over the people who traded me like cattle? Davis's breath hitched. He hadn't expected the fire, the raw honesty in her voice. His own anger twisted, curdling into something else, something darker, hungrier. He wheeled forward abruptly, closing the distance between them until she could feel the heat of his body. His eyes burned into hers, daring, demanding. Then why are you so damn calm? He growled. You walk around here as if none of this touches you. As if you don't bleed. Tell me, Jessica, what's under that mask you wear? Her chest rose and fell sharply, their faces too close, the air too hot. She should have stepped back. She didn't. Why do you care? She whispered. For a moment, neither of them moved. The silence crackled, heavy with the weight of everything unspoken, anger, grief, attraction, hunger. Davis's hand shot up, gripping the edge of the desk beside her. His knuckles brushed her hip by accident, or perhaps not, and Jessica's breath faltered. Heat raced through her veins, treacherous and undeniable. Then he laughed, low and rough, breaking the spell. Careful, Mrs. Allen. You'll make me forget I hate you. Jessica swallowed hard, her nails biting into the wood of the desk to keep her steady. She forced her lips into a smirk. That would be tragic, wouldn't it? You'd have to find a new hobby. The banter hung between them like a spark, almost playful this time. Almost. He pulled back slowly, eyes never leaving hers, and she felt the loss of his nearness far too keenly. That night, Jessica tossed and turned in her bed, her skin still humming with the memory of his nearness, his voice, his heat. She hated that she remembered the weight of his hand steadying her, the brush of his knuckles at her side, the look in his eyes when their anger tipped into something else. This is dangerous, she told herself. This is a mistake. And yet, when dawn came, she found herself listening for the sound of wheels in the hall. Davis, in his room, poured another whiskey and stared at the ceiling. He told himself he was only tolerating her, only pushing her to see what she'd reveal. But his body remembered the way her breath had hitched, the way her lips had parted, the way her fire matched his own. Damn it, he muttered, slamming the glass down. But no amount of curses could smother the truth. The hostility was cracking. And beneath it, something far more dangerous was waiting to ignite. The mansion had grown too small for the war inside it. Every glance, every word between them was a spark, and now the sparks had gathered into a fire they could no longer smother. It came to a head on a night heavy with thunder. Rain lashed against the windows, echoing the storm in Davis's chest. He had been drinking again, the burn of whiskey dulling the ache in his legs, but not the ache of something far deeper. Jessica found him in the study, a shadow hunched over the desk, glass in hand. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Trying to drown yourself in that? He looked up, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched. What else is there to do? Watch the world I built rot while I sit here useless? Useless? Her tone was sharper than she intended. She stepped into the room, the lightning flashing behind her like a blade. That's the story you tell yourself. But I've seen you fight, against me, against everyone. You're not useless, Davis. You're just afraid. The words struck harder than any pity ever could. His hand trembled on the glass. Afraid? He laughed bitterly. You think I'm afraid of you? Yes. She came closer, each step steady, unflinching. You're afraid of what you still want. Afraid of wanting me. Afraid of needing anyone. Her nearness set his pulse racing, hot and reckless. He slammed the glass down, the sound sharp in the storm. And what if I do want you? What then? I can't give you what a husband should. I can't. Stop. Her hand came down on the desk, inches from his. Her voice was quiet now, but fierce. Stop deciding what I can and can't want. You think you're the only one carrying scars? For the first time, Davis saw the mask slip. Her eyes burned with a truth he hadn't touched before. Who are you really, Jessica? He whispered, almost afraid of the answer. Her lips curved, not in mockery but in something closer to surrender. You really want to know? She straightened, her presence suddenly sharper, brighter, as though she had peeled back a veil. I'm not just the daughter they discarded. I'm Dr. Sika, the one your board members whisper about when their lives are on the line. I'm Lady Bright, the shadow who moves the markets they worship. I'm not here because I had no choice. I'm here because I chose to stop hiding. The storm outside seemed to still in that moment. Davis stared, shock rippling through him. The woman before him was no pawn, no sacrifice. She was power itself, wrapped in calm defiance. And she had just given him the one thing she hadn't given anyone else, truth. You, his voice cracked, raw. You trusted me with this? Jessica's eyes softened. You said I was afraid. Maybe I am. But I'm not afraid of you. The silence between them broke like glass. Davis reached for her, hesitant at first, then with the desperation of a man who had been drowning too long. His fingers curled around her wrist, pulling her closer. Jessica didn't resist. She came to him willingly, her breath mingling with his. When their lips met, it wasn't gentle. It was fierce, hungry, the collision of two storms that had fought too long to stay apart. His hand tangled in her hair, hers pressed against his chest, feeling the frantic hammer of his heart. The kiss deepened, the air between them charged with all the fire they had denied. Davis pulled back only enough to rasp against her lips, careful, Jessica. You'll make me forget how much I hate you. She laughed, breathless, eyes gleaming. Then you'll have to find a new hobby. He growled, low and rough, before claiming her mouth again. Later, when the storm had eased to rain, they sat together in the quiet aftermath. Jessica leaned against him on the sofa, her head on his shoulder. Davis's arm wrapped around her, his grip possessive but uncharacteristically gentle. You've been hiding an empire under my roof, he murmured, still half in disbelief. You've been hiding behind bitterness, she countered softly. I suppose we're even. He huffed a laugh, the sound warm this time. His gaze lingered on her, fierce and unguarded. You could have chosen anyone. Why stay here with me? Jessica tilted her head to look at him, her smile small but certain. Because for the first time, I'm not just surviving. I'm living. And maybe you are too. The words sank deep, cutting through years of pride and pain. Davis tightened his hold, his voice rough but steady. Then stay. Not because of a contract, not because of appearances. Stay because you want to. I already have. The storm passed. And in its wake, two broken pieces had forged something unbreakable.